the pattern. To begin with, we're going to be doing a long tail cast on. If you've seen any of my other videos, you will have seen this before. You get a nice long tail. You make a slip knot. We're going to then attach it to our needle. We want the tail in front and the working yarn behind. We attach that. We take our pincer fingers, go between the two, grab from below, and pull back the needle like a slingshot. Again, still have not found the video that links to that girl with that who referred to it like a slingshot, but I really enjoy using that same metaphor. So pull back like a slingshot. You're going to pick up in front of your thumb there and in front of your finger. So from the left into the right, from there, and then we'll pick up from the back. And now we should have a loop on your thumb. Pull through, just like that. So cast on 33 and then knit a row, and I will come back when we're going to be starting with the Fisherman's Rib. So we have now got our casted on 33 stitches and we've knitted our first row. To do the Fisherman Rib, you need to use an odd number of stitches. Okay, so to do this pattern, we are going to begin with our first stitch, which is a purl stitch. So go into the front, around, and drop that stitch off. The second stitch, now this is what makes it a Fisherman's Rib. We're going to be knitting one below. So you can see the little stitch there. We're going to be stitching just below that. So if you were to put your needle in, let's get this right. The needle goes in, and again still through the back, but you can see it's below that stitch. Okay, should put this behind, that would make more sense. So you go in below and knit as normal, making sure that you are pulling up and dropping off, and that is knitting one below to the front. Purl, let's see if I can remember to do this time. Yarn to the back to knit, and we're going to go again in to the below and out, and now we're just going to repeat that right the way along this row, and I'll come back to you when we get to the end. Start the next row. This whole row now will be knitting. There'll be no purling. It's a full knit row. Okay, so for this next row we're going to be going back the way with all the knit stitches, like I said. So to do this, to begin this row, you always knit 2, and we're going to be ending with 2 knit stitches, and everything in between will be knitting 1 below. So knit 2, knit 1 below. So let's get my hand around. This one, it's a little bit different to see. You'll see you don't have that same bump, you have the V. So when you go in, the lump is, the little stitch is on the back. Can you see that there? That little stitch, we're going to be going into that from behind. So we've knit that stitch, we knit the next one, and then we're going to go into the next one again. So again, you can see the stitch, it's on the back. So we go into the front down, so we can pick up that stitch from behind and knit from below. Stitches that will be following for the rest of the pattern. Those 2 rows form the basis. The pearl being the even rows and the knitting ones being the odd rows. So I've just knitted across the 8th row, finishing on a knit one below, so that's 16 stitches. Now we're going to keep these on this needle. I'm going to drop my yarn, and we're going to put these on a stitch holder. So for the video purposes I'll use an actual stitch holder. Like I say, I usually use a needle or a piece of scrap yarn a lot of times as well. So just going to place. See, we've gone across 16 stitches. I ended on a knit one below. I then have put the rest of the stitches onto a stitch holder. I use a stitch holder for the video just so it's easier to see here. So those are held until we need them. We'll carry on going back and forward in the fisherman's rib on this side. So you'll turn the work, and now we're on a knit row, so it'll be knit one below. We're not doing two because it's the middle, so it'll just be a knit one below across, finishing with 2 knit stitches. Carry on for the next few rows with that. Once that is done, we're going to be putting these back on the needle and putting these on the stitch holder. So however you want to do that, which way round, that's fine. Now with this one, we're going to be again starting with a purl 1 across the row like normal, turn, and this is the end of the row, so it'll be a knit, knit one below and across, and just carry on that. So again, we're not going to end with a knit 2 either, it'll be knit 1 and knit 1 below at the end, just so that we can continue the ribbing pattern. Once we've done that, then we'll be putting them all back onto the needle and carrying on knitting the next few rows before we do the decreases. So I'm sure you'll be able to manage that, and I'll see you when we do the decrease so you can see how we do that. Okay, so we've got to the point where we're going to be doing decreases. We have a little gap here for the spout of the teapot, and we're going to be moving on to the decrease. The decrease for this pattern is called, it's the shortened abbreviation is CCD, and we have a P against it, meaning that it will be a decrease with the purl. So because we're on a purl row, we're going to be doing this decrease in a purl. So to begin with, we'll just follow our pattern like we have been, which is the purl and knit 1 below, and we'll do this for 8 stitches. One more. Now we're going to do our decrease. Okay, so we'll come up a little bit closer so you can see. So to do this, we're going to be slipping 2 stitches onto this needle knitwise. That means you're going from the left to the right, so across and across. Now we're going to put them back onto this needle by going from the right to the left. So we'll do this, we'll be putting both stitches at the same time across. So, sorry, in and moving those across. So now we have those 2 stitches moved to this side. For the decrease, we're decreasing these 2 stitches at a time. So to decrease the 2, we're going to have 1, 2, and we're going to be taking in this one. Now this is the purl-wise part of it. Instead of knitting these, we're actually going to go in purl. So just purl as you would normally. So bring the yarn to the front and purl. And there we go. We've done our decrease. Now continue along for another 11. We're going to do the same decrease on this side, and then we'll do the last 8. And then the next few rows will be the same before our last decrease. Okay, so I'm just going to show you while I'm in the middle of this. I'm onto the last decrease row, but I wanted to come back on here and just show. So when we're going back after a decrease row, the stitch we decreased 3, we're going to be knitting below that. So it's going to be a bit of a chunky one. So the same way you've done all the other rows, but when you go through, you will have to go through that big lump of stitches you've just decreased and through. It does make the difference when you carry on with the pattern. You'll be able to see now the last decrease that we did, which is right here, which is a really nice, neat decrease. They join together, it continues up, so it does make a difference. Just a very nice, neat way to decrease, and even on the wrong side, it looks nice. To be honest, with this tea cozy, I actually like it both ways. I don't think there is really a wrong side, right side. I think you could probably do either way, and it gives it a really nice effect. Very similar, but I thought I'd just share that with you. Yes, on the decrease, just make sure you pick up those chunky stitches when you knit one below, and then carry on as normal. Simple. Okay. It is done. Now we're going to be binding off, casting off, whatever you like, but is it a real bind off at this point? I don't even know if I'd call it that, because what we're really going to do, all we're going to do is put the yarn on an embroidery needle. I like these plastic ones. It gives you a nice big eye at the end, especially when you're using chunky yarn. And we're going to thread it all the way through the stitches and then take it off the needle and pull it tight. I don't know if I'd class that as a bind off because it's not really a bind off. So to do this, we're going to go insert the needle from this side to this side. So this is where we've ended, but we're going to go in from this side and go across. Now we're going to want a tail long enough to be able to sew up our end as well. So we're going to do this in one go. So I like to give myself a very long tail. I'd rather have a very long tail and end up with too much than end up with too little. So threading the needle, we're just going to go in, pick up all of these stitches. Have it. You pull it tight so that hole just disappears. There we go. Pull tight, and there we go. So now from there we're going to be stitching up, making sure the side that you want to be facing outwards is on the outside, obviously. I'll take this and I'm just gonna thread it through, pulling everything nice and tight. I'm not too worried if there's a slight hole. We're going to be putting our pom-pom over this gap anyway, so it's not too bad. So now we're going to be sewing up our tea cozy. So I'm going to go down just a little ways, and then we're going to put it on the teapot because we need to know where our handle's going to go. With this stitch is don't pull too tight otherwise you'll gather all the rest of the stitches. So you just want to keep that in mind when you're sewing this up. So now we're at the bottom. I'll tie this off. You can see I obviously gave myself a very long tail, but that's okay. I'm going to sew in all of the ends, weave those in with my needle, put on my pom-pom of choice, and pretty much this will be the teapot cozy ready to go. And here is the finished result. My favorite part, I have to say, the little pom-pom. It's like a little beanie for your teapot. And I can say for sure, this thing definitely keeps my tea a lot warmer for a lot longer. So, even if it does seem a little bit grandma,